Hey everybody, this is Harrison with Level 1 Gaming, bringing you a review for Avowed. To begin with, thank you Xbox for the review code, much appreciated. Experiencing an established franchise in a new genre is a rare treat. It would be like if they turned Halo into an RTS or something. As you step into Avowed, it's essential to remember this is an action FPS RPG set in the Pillars universe, and you're not playing Pillars of Eternity 3. With that mindset, you'll discover an extremely well-written, visually stunning, and deeply engaging RPG filled with so much more heart than any game that I've played recently. If you enjoy Obsidian games, fantasy RPGs, or just action RPGs in general, especially the Outer Worlds, Avowed is not one to miss. I'm thrilled that Obsidian took this leap, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for the Pillars universe, especially if they decide to make an Avowed 2. Overall, from beginning to end, Avowed was such a joy to experience. In Avowed, you play as the Envoy, the Emperor's envoy to be precise, and you're also a godlike. Godlikes in this universe are essentially humans born with divine markings that signify a connection to a god somehow. These godlikes also usually retain unique abilities or powers. However, most of these godlikes are connected to a god as the god essentially claims that person so they know that they're connected to them. However, you're a little different. No god has claimed you, so you're godlike but also godless. Shipwrecked on the living lands, you're sent to investigate the Dream Scourge, which is a fungal affliction turning animals and humans into aggressive, mindless drones. On top of that, most of the living lands isn't exactly welcoming to Adirans, which is your homeland. So nearly everything and everyone is against you. From the wreck, you make your way to Paradise, the largest city in the living lands, to begin your investigation. The story starts predictably, with you're washed up on shore, find a couple companions, and complete tutorial-style tasks for the first 30-ish minutes. It's an effective introduction to the game's mechanics and lore, but overall, it's not particularly gripping. Once you get into the first couple hours, things start to really get going. Speaking of lore, Avowed has one of the best in-game lore systems I've ever seen. Typically in a game, if they say a word you don't know, you have to pause the game, navigate through a couple menus, find a compendium, and search for a definition of whatever in-game item or word you don't know, and search for whatever that term means. Not in Avowed. This is genuinely such an improvement on most games. Here you can press X during a conversation to pull up a compendium of every lore-related term used in that dialogue. It just pulls it right up on the other side of the screen. Every word that is said during a conversation that has a lore entry is marked in a bold bluish font. And if you just hit X, it'll show you a list of all the words used that conversation and easily referenced what they mean. You press X to pull that out. Press X to put it away once you figured out what's going on, and you resume the conversation. It's quick, it's seamless, and it's an amazingly excellent way to introduce newcomers to the Pillars universe without breaking immersion or having to flip through tons of menus. From the get-go, you can really tell that they tried really hard to make Avowed offer some amazingly refreshing approach to combat. It never holds your hand, but allows you to tailor your character and playstyle to exactly what you want. Normally in these types of games, I default to a basic stealth archer, as it tends to be the most effective and that's what I'm usually most comfortable with. However, in Avowed, even from the beginning, every weapon felt balanced and encouraged experimentation because they were all just so much fun to use. For the first few hours, I constantly found myself switching between playing as a wizard, a warrior, a dual wielder, an archer, or a wizard with a pistol. It's rare to find a game where every weapon and combination feels equally fun and viable. If you think of a weapon combo or a playstyle, Avowed likely accommodates it. You want to dual wield wands? Check. You want to use a pistol and a shield for some reason? Sure. You want to use a dagger and a wand? Absolutely. Sword and a pistol? Of course. Axe and a grimoire? Again, yeah. I eventually settled on dual wielding a spear and a pistol to mainly keep enemies at bay with the spear but to finish them off with a close range shot with a pistol. It's a bizarre combo, and it's one that I never would have thought I would have been using in a game, but I loved it. The variety of viable playstyles here is genuinely refreshing and it's fun to use. With such enjoyable combat, it's easy to forget that Avowed is also a deep RPG. Skill points are divided among 5 main paths: Warrior, Ranger, Wizard, Godlike, and Companion. There are also 6 main attributes: Might, Constitution, Dexterity, Perception, Intellect, and Resolve. I mainly focused on Dexterity and Perception as a Ranger, emphasizing attack speed and critical hit damage. The ability trees are diverse, though not always compelling, and they're not as deep as I would like them to be. My ranger build revolved around summoning roots to trap enemies, Though the description implied it could ensnare multiple targets when I only ever found it affected one, other ranger abilities include summoning an awesome bear, turning invisible for sneak attacks, and a movement attack speed buff. Smaller skills along the way improve dodging, slowing time when aiming with a bow or a rifle, and enhancing one-handed weapon damage. While functional, these abilities never felt particularly exciting to unlock, besides the bear one, of course. Conversely, the wizard path is incredibly fleshed out. In the trailers alone, it is clear that the magic received the most attention here. Wizards can wield grimoires to cast specialized spells and use additional abilities they unlock outside them, such as chain lightning, explosive wand attacks, summoning magical lances. Normally I would avoid playing as a mage, but Avowed made spellcasting feel so genuinely powerful and fun. Plus, respecking is really cheap, so experimenting is really encouraged here. The godlike ability tree is another standout feature. These abilities unlock based on choices made in the story. For example, one decision granted me a spell that heals and revives allies. Choosing differently, I assume would have yielded a different power. And since you can't acquire all godlike abilities in one playthrough, your decisions carry weight and makes each playthrough seem decently unique. Besides that, the loot system here is somewhat of a mixed bag. You'll frequently find the same basic weapons, but they can be upgraded at camp using materials gathered through exploration or dismantling gear. Unique weapons and armor exist, but once found, basic weapons essentially became obsolete. And while loot isn't exciting here in a game like it is Borderlands, exploration remains rewarding, and finding some hidden treasure up on a cliff or path somewhere is still a ton of fun to find. And while the combat here overall is pretty excellent, the ability wheel feels a little clunky to me. You can assign shortcuts to the D-pad, but you'll need some slots for healing and restoring essence, basically your mana or magic. So it forced me to frequently pause to use my companion abilities. The inability to queue multiple actions in the wheel was frustrating as well. Using a personal ability, then opening the wheel again for companions, then again for another companions, disrupts the flow of combat. It's something I eventually adapted to, but it never felt smooth, and it's not something like in the recent Dragon Age games where you can have everybody pile onto one person at the same time during the same click of the wheel for a bunch of combos. You have to open it, close it, open it, close it, open it, close it for each companion ability you want to use on that target. Speaking of companions, the companions in Avowed are such a joy. They're well written, memorable, and bring warmth to the game. Their banter frequently made me smile, and their personalities are distinct and engaging. For example, the first companion, Kai, is snarky yet lovable somehow. Writing a character like him without feeling cliched always is a challenge, but Obsidian nailed it here. The second companion, Marius, is a hot-headed dwarf ranger with a rigid sense of morality. The contrast between Kai's compassion and Marius's black and white worldview creates fantastic dynamics. Companions also have their own skill trees with 3 active abilities and 1 passive. For instance, Kai can perform a superhero landing that taunts enemies, while Marius can turn invisible and unleash a flurry of stabs. Unlike BioWare games, you can't command them to attack specific targets. They act mostly autonomously, which works well for the game's flow, but might disappoint you if you're wanting to individually heal or tell them to focus on specific targets, or if you like to micromanage your companions. The Living Lands is a stunning and varied setting, with breathtaking vistas, bustling towns, exotic shores, and mysterious caves. Rather than being fully open world like Skyrim, Avowed features interconnected hub areas similar to the Outer Worlds. This structure keeps each location fresh and engaging without overstaying its welcome. Along with that, exploring this world is highly rewarding. Climbing a random tower often leads to a gorgeous view with swelling music and a treasure chest, making even minor detours feel worthwhile. While the loot system, like I said earlier, isn't the most compelling, the sheer draw of discovery keeps exploration engaging, and maybe I'm basic, but every time I climbed somewhere and thought, hey, this is a cool view, the game also agreed and music would swell and it'd be like, oh, this is a great view. And I'm so glad that tiny little details like that went into the game to make exploration feel worth it. Along with that, side quests are also a highlight. They're some of the best well-written any RPG that I've played in the past few years, and they're very, very, very rarely simple fetch quests, often featuring unexpected twists or multiple stages of a quest or plotline. Looking back, honestly, some of these side missions are among my fondest memories in Avowed. Overall, Avowed is an incredibly solid outing from Obsidian, featuring fantastic gameplay, great writing, gorgeous visuals, and an abundance of heart bursting at the seams with heart. I enjoyed every second of my playthrough, and I'm already planning on my next one. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, I'm Perka1 with Level 1 Gaming. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll see you next time. See ya.